We can no longer be silent about Pakistan's safe havens for terrorist organizations, the Taliban, and other groups that pose a threat to the region and beyond. Pakistan has much to gain from partnering with our effort in Afghanistan. It has much to lose by continuing to harbor criminals and terrorists. Pakistan has also sheltered the same organizations that try every single day to kill our people. We have been paying Pakistan billions and billions of dollars. At the same time, they are housing the very terrorists that we are fighting. But that will have to change, and that will change immediately. It is time for Pakistan to demonstrate its commitment to civilization, order, and to peace.
Welcome to Tactical Talk. This is Zain. Today, the topic of our show is the Trump South Asia paradox. The guest of our show is Alex Christoforou, the writer and director for The Duran, theduran.com. We will be discussing how Trump's previous statements about Afghanistan and how his recent statements about Afghanistan are in total contradiction. And his South Asia policy speech was totally unexpected. Welcome to our show, Alex Christoforou. This is Zain Khan. It's a pleasure to have you on Tactical Talk.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Alex, Trump proposed to take out the U.S. troops from Afghanistan. Why do you think there was a sudden change of plan while he was giving his South Asia policy speech?
Well, I don't know if it was a change of plan. I don't even know if it was his plan. I think there could be no doubt now that Trump has been brought to heel by the deep state, the military-industrial complex, and Wall Street. I think we're looking at a foreign policy now that's run by military generals, former consultants for many of the largest military manufacturers in the U.S., and he's surrounded by a lot of Wall Street, Goldman Sachs executives. So I think that whatever Trump said about Afghanistan, whatever it says about his policy in Asia, or anywhere else in the world for that matter, I think you're just hearing a prepared speech by the military generals and the Wall Street bankers. So Trump's foreign policy is not really Trump's foreign policy. It's being run by someone else. And I think that was all too obvious in the way he was reading the speech. You could tell that he was pretty much reading something prepared for him word for word. He was reading it slowly. He was reading it deliberately. And you can tell that there was not much Trump in the words that were coming out. So I think that's pretty much the revelation that came to last week.
Trump is following the same policies as Obama in Syria and now in Afghanistan. How do you see this affecting the region?
I think going back to your first question and the fact that Trump has ceded control of his foreign policy to the generals and to the Wall Street bankers, to Mattis and McMaster's, Steve Mnuchin, and all these people that are surrounding Trump, I think what you're going to see really is just a repetition of the Bush years and the Obama years. I don't think we should expect anything different now from Trump's foreign policy, whether it's with regards to, once again, Afghanistan, Middle East, Asia. You're just going to be seeing an extension of the Bush years and the Obama years. So with that said, I think you can expect a very predictable Trump foreign policy, but a very hostile, erratic, interventionist foreign policy, something that Trump campaigned against. It goes against everything that Trump campaigned for. He campaigned for pulling the U.S. out of entanglements, but following Bush and Obama's foreign policy, looks like Trump is going to be getting involved in a lot more foreign entanglements than anyone had anticipated.
Alex, Trump also mentioned that he wants India to be the key partner in the war in Afghanistan. How would this affect the region, since the Chinese obviously won't like this policy? And how could the Indians actually help in the war in Afghanistan, since they don't even have a border with Afghanistan?
Yeah, I don't think India is going to play a role in Afghanistan. I just think that's Trump talking from a lot of inexperience. I think I don't even think Mattis and McMaster's and these guys even take comments like that seriously. I think it's Trump going back to his instinct to be a deal maker, and I think he's making a deal so that he can place maybe some pressure on China, some pressure on Pakistan. And in Trump's mind, I think he sees as India as probably the best lever to push those countries to maybe magically give Trump that foreign policy win that I think he's looking for, and maybe give the impression and the illusion that he actually still has some control as to what's being done outside the United States. So saying that, I don't think those words from Trump mean anything. I don't think India is going to get involved by any means into any of those entanglements that Mattis and McMaster's will definitely ramp up. And I don't even think Trump's team of generals takes those words very seriously.
How do you think the Chinese and the Russians perceive Trump's South Asia policy?
I think China and the Russians now understand that you're just going to have a continuation of the last, Bush and Obama years, the two terms that those presidents had. I think you're just going to see a continuation. And so China and Russia are going to act accordingly. And I think they know what to expect from the U.S. when it comes to their foreign policy. I think they understand that they're going to be seeing a continuation of what's been taking place the last 16 years. And they're going to act accordingly. Of course, a lot has changed since the Bush presidency, and a lot has changed since Obama left office. We have definitely moved more towards a multipolar world, and China's in a much stronger position than it was 16 years ago, and Russia's in a much stronger position than it was 16 years ago. And so, they're definitely going to exert their influence, and there's not going to be much Trump or Mattis or McMaster's or any of these guys can really do. They're going to have to, when it comes to dealing with China and it comes to dealing with Russia, they're going to have to try to use some sort of diplomacy. Sanctions are not going to work. They're going to have to figure out ways to speak with these rising powers and these new powers in this multipolar world. But as far as Russia and China, I think they're not surprised whatsoever as to what's happened with Trump's foreign policy, and I think they understand that they're just going to see an extension of the 8 years that Obama ran his foreign policy. So they know what to expect, and they'll deal with it accordingly.
Alex, if the Indians decide to set their boots on ground in Afghanistan and also give the U.S. their military bases, how would this affect the region?
I think it would be a terrible mistake. I think it would just prolong and expand the war in Afghanistan, which is already the longest war that the U.S. has been involved in. We're going on 16, 17 years now. And it's an unwinnable entanglement. I think that's obvious. For all the bravado and bluster that Trump gave during his speech, you had a much more subdued Rex Tillerson, even admitting as much that this war, this intervention in Afghanistan is unwinnable. They're looking for some sort of way to save face in Afghanistan, because once again, you're looking at 16, 17 years invested in that country. And any more intervention in Afghanistan would not lead to any sort of tangible results, because we don't really even know what the U.S. is doing there. The U.S. doesn't even know what they're doing there. They've never clearly defined their mission in Afghanistan, all the way from Bush to Obama to now Trump. No one's really defined it. We don't really know what the end point is. We don't know what the goal is. Sure, they say democracy and a stable government and the same platitudes that you hear from every president, but there's no concrete goal that the United States is trying to attain by being in Afghanistan. You're just looking at more prolonged war, which of course is going to benefit the military-industrial complex, which of course, is the same institutions that Mattis and McMaster's and all these generals were consultants for before they entered the Trump administration. So, unfortunately, I think you're just going to be looking at more prolonged war in the region, and I don't think anyone getting involved would help the situation whatsoever.
Okay, Alex, last question. Do you think this Afghan policy will affect CPEC and other road and economic initiatives by China in the region?
It could detour China's One Belt, One Road policy. I don't think anything's going to stop the integration of Asia and Eurasia all the way to Europe. It's a reality. The U.S. is not involved in that game. This is China's initiative. This is all about China. And while they would definitely like Afghanistan to be part of the link in that road, I think that any troubles or issues in Afghanistan that can't be resolved, China's just going to work around it. They definitely have the capacity to do so. So I don't really think this is going to affect China's plan to connect Eurasia and Europe to China. But it may cause some delays and some detours, but it's not going to affect it whatsoever. China understands that the U.S. is heavily entrenched in Afghanistan, and unfortunately for the U.S., they're heavily entrenched in Afghanistan, and who knows how or when they're going to get out. But China's not going to wait for any sort of improvement in the situation in Afghanistan before they continue to push forward towards Europe.
Thank you so much, Alex Christoforou, for being on Tactical Talk. It was a pleasure having you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
This was Alex Christoforou, the writer and director for The Duran, theduran.com. We were discussing the Trump South Asia paradox. Until the next episode of Tactical Talk, this is Zain. Take care and goodbye.